Hey, take a look at the prices of what they're asking for vintage bamboo and rattan bar stools. Now those bar stools you saw, most of them cost more than the whole cost we've put into this tiki bar with all the decorations and building the whole bar. I saw 4 bar stools that I really liked on Craigslist, but they're not keeping with the theme. They were $600 and they were really neat. They had short backs with curved bamboo, but they were just too much money. And I saw another listing on Craigslist. It was a man who had hoarded furniture, and I think he got most of it for free because it was not in really good condition. He had jammed up his 2-car garage to the ceiling with furniture and had more in his house. His family was getting rid of it, actually saying, come and get it, it's free, except for a few things that were in better shape or they thought they could get some money for. I saw 3 bar stools. They're from the 1960s. They're not tiki looking, but I'm going to recover them and reupholster them in a mid-century tweedy fabric. Now you could do this in some kind of tropical looking fabric as well. I think they're going to look really good. And, you know, not everything has to be bamboo or rattan in a tiki bar. You can have something for contrast. So take a look and see what you think. This is how I recovered those 3 bar stools. And I bought them for $15 each. Now, even though the tiki bar is virtually finished, I want to do something with these bar chairs. I got these really cheap, and they're nice ones. They spin, but they got some problems here, and they don't really fit so exactly with black fake leather. They're from the 1960s. I want to recover them in something more appropriate for like a mid-century tiki bar. Now they're made with cording here, and if I was using a solid color fabric or a print, I would want to retain that cording. But I've got a different kind of material, and I'm not going to use the cording. I'm just going to do it without cording. One of the reasons for cording is to make a nicer transition between the pieces so that you don't see the stitching. But the material I bought, the fabric, doesn't really need that because you're not going to notice the stitching. I just happened to see this fabric on sale for $8 a yard, which is really cheap for upholstery fabric. And it's looking a little orange to you, but it's really more of a tapa cloth reddish brown. And it's got all this cool crisscross tweedy look, which reminds me of the 1950s. So I'm going to go ahead and take that chair apart. And let's see what we can do with it. It's important before you take it apart to label every part. Front, back, back, front. Now this looks like it should be the same both ways, but take it from me, the way the screws go into the wood here, it can be a little bit different on each side, and if you put it on backwards, ask me how I know this. If you put it on backwards, you're not going to line up the holes with the screws, and you're going to be trying to find the holes, and it's just not going to work. So I've gone ahead and labeled it, and once I take this covering off, I'm going to keep the label on the inside so I know which is the front and which is the back. Okay, the first step is to take out these screws. Alright, I have the staples out. But note, with this fake leather that's old, it shrinks over the years, and you can see how tight it is here. It's shrunk right over that corner, even though this part is down here. You can't pull that and get it off easily. Now if I use this fabric to make a new pattern, my new pattern is going to be too small and it won't be able to be put on. So I have to make a new pattern for this. Now if you're uncovering something that's not leather and it has a little give to it, then you could use the old pieces as a pattern for the new fabric. But in this case, this is no good. So I'm going to take this off and make a new pattern.
You know those little do not remove under the penalty of law labels they put on mattresses?
Yeah.
Well, I cut one of them off.
Now, the first thing you need to do if you're going to make a new pattern is decide where the seam's going to go. Now, I'm not using cording, but here's the old cording from the chair. And if I was using cording, what I would do is sandwich this and sew it with a foot on your sewing machine that's only half of a foot, where one side can go right up tight against it here. And I would just sew this cording into this strip of fabric and end up with cording. Now you can do that if you want, and then that would have to be sandwiched in between the two pieces of fabric. But okay, what I'm doing here is I have this upside down, and I'm going to take a Sharpie marker and I'm going to trace it to about where, a loose trace, right about where the seam would go. Okay, so I'm just going to trace this all the way around. Okay, now that I've got that line, I'm going to take a 1/4 inch for the hem or the seam. So I'm just going to move this around here and mark off 1/4 inches from that line. And go all the way around, and then I'm going to connect those dots, and I'm going to cut out that pattern. And that's going to be the fabric for the top. So if I put it on there, you're going to see that the first line I made is going to line up. That's where the seam's going to be, and we cut it bigger to give ourselves a little hem. Okay, now we have to do the sides, which is just a long rectangle. Okay, for the sides, I just need to use the piece that I took off of the side because it's just a rectangle, and I'm going to make it even a little bigger. When I trace it here, I'm going to leave a little more here so I have plenty to tuck under, and I'm even going to leave a little extra on each end to make sure I have enough. And that's just a simple long rectangle. As long as it's straight, you're good. When you're placing the pattern on the fabric, you want the good side of the pattern to face with the good side of the fabric. Now if you're just doing a simple bar stool, it's very easy. Here's the seat, and then here's the edge. So let's put that aside. Now it's the same for the back. You just want to trace it. But then on the back, I want to give it more room. Now remember, we want the seam to come halfway up the side here. So I've measured it up to get it so that I have a seam. The seam will be right here where this fold is. And I have an extra 1/2 inch. Now I went 1/2 inch on this just to make sure I have enough. I can trim it. This is a little more tricky than the seat. So what I did here was I measured how tall is this. And I'm seeing that it is like about 1 3/4 inches. All right, so I need 1/2 3/4 inches plus the seam allowance. And the stitches are going to end up right here, right in the middle where I want them. So whatever part's the back, fold it in half and locate the midpoint. And you can stick a little pin in there to mark the midpoint. Okay, now if you're doing a round bar seat, it's very easy because it doesn't matter what's the back side. But on this one, there is a back and a front. So here's the back, here's the midpoint, and here's the strip that's going to be around the sides of the seat. So I'm going to put it past, I'm going to start it past that midpoint, and I'm just going to go around and pin it good side, pinned to good side. So when you've pinned it all the way around and you come to the back, you should have extra on both sides where the two pieces are going to meet. Now I have heavy duty upholstery thread, but here's a tip that I do. I'm going to sew it with just some regular thread so that if it's too big or too small or something, I can rip it apart easily and redo it. So let's replace this and sew it. And if it works out okay, then I can over sew this thread with the stronger thread. Okay, here it is. So let's put it on and see if it needs adjusting or not. Okay, there she is, and the seam lines up pretty good there, right on the edge. So it's good to go, and I'm going to turn it inside out again, and I'm going to now over sew that seam that I just put in with the thin thread, and I'm going to sew it with the thick upholstery thread. But in the case that you made it too big and your seam ended up down here, you could adjust it and sew it again and sew it a little further in. Put the seam a little further in to adjust it. If you did it and it's too small for some reason and the seam ends up way up here, then you can easily take a seam ripper and rip out the thin thread and remeasure and do it again. But if you measured correctly, it should come out right on the edge here of the seat. So I'm going to over sew this right now. Okay, here's the back, good side to good side. And in this case, I'm doing this a 1/2 inch seam because it's got to be pulled on there pretty tight, and I don't want it near the edge. So what I did on my machine is I marked off a 1/2 inch from the needle with a piece of tape so that I can guide it with the edge of the tape. And here's a perfect fit the first time. So I'm ready to over sew that thin thread with the thick upholstery thread. Okay, here they are ready to be stapled. Let's flip them over, and then it's just basically stapling this on. I'm also going to use, here's the old seat. I'm going to cut that out and use this part here to finish off the bottom. Now remember I said to leave 2 flaps on the back extra long. One of them we're going to fold back like this, and the other one we're going to tuck in. We're going to tuck this one in and staple it, and then the other one's going to be folded back, and it's going to go over so that it ends up like this in the back. Okay, there's the seat, all finished and ready to be reattached. Like wrapping a Christmas present, first you're going to push the corners in like this, and then it's going to get folded over. And here's the old seat. I cut out a piece, and I might as well use it for finishing off the bottom. Now I have to know where these holes are here. So to do that, once I get this on, I use a pin and poke it until I find the hole. And then I'll punch through to the hole. Okay, I punched through where the holes were. You can either do it, kind of mark where it is before you staple this down, or you can just go with a pin and find where the holes are. Now it's time to put this all back together again. One more thing I might add is save your paper patterns that you made. If they're good patterns, save them, mark them, because someday you might want to recover your bar stools again. Let's say somebody spills something on it. Who knows? So then you'll have patterns ready to go, and I think it's a good idea to save them. It looks perfectly fine without the cording on it.